Hey Clone Club, this is Mel and I'm back to talk about Orphan Black. This time I'll be talking about the Season 3 finale, that is episode 310, titled History Yet to Be Written, which aired June 20th, 2015. So because it's the final episode, I'm going to talk about specific topics before quickly summarizing the outcomes for the later clones. So let's talk about the return of Neolution. We first heard the term from Dr. Leakey back in episode 106, and I have to say I completely forgot about Neolution until it was mentioned in the recap before this episode officially started. I think with the death of Olivier and Dr. Leakey, I assumed that Neolution died with them. I forgot that Neolution was basically associated with the Diet Institute before Cosima got a job there. So what I took away from the finale was that Neolution basically controlled both Project Lita and Project Castor like it was the main puppeteer pulling the clone strings, and they are the ones that really want the original genome. We learn of Neolution's involvement in the two projects through Delphine when she questions Dr. Nealon for his deception. Apparently Dr. Nealon was working for Neolution the whole time, and he helped Rachel escape Dyad only to have Neolution take custody of her, which we clearly see when Rachel's new eye is that enhanced silver one that the Neolution followers had back in season 1. And that eye is pretty creepy. Another thing that was creepy is that damn worm thing that came from within Dr. Nealon's mouth. And if Delphine hadn't shot the doctor when she did, that worm could have gotten into her mouth. I was so creeped out by it and it reminded me of the con worm creature from the show Supernatural. And I was also confused by how the worm got there in the first place. Was it always alive inside Dr. Nealon? I think I prefer the tail that Olivier had over the worm. Yuck. Who'd want to make an enhancement with a worm like that? Anyways, before Dr. Nealon dies, he tells Delphine that she won't live to see the morning, and I immediately thought that his dead body had some fatal infectious contagion on it, and that Delphine was now exposed to the contagion now that he was dead, and that was why her life was endangered. Turns out that Delphine doesn't die because of my bioweapon theory, but because someone shot her in the parking garage at the end of the night. That surprised me completely. Did Dr. Nealon know this was going to happen, or did he only say that to Delphine to scare her? Delphine looked like she knew who her killer was, and she didn't fight against the assault. What could that mean? I know one thing is for sure. Delphine's death means the end of Cophine, which is Cosima and Delphine, and with her death added to Paul's, that means all Season 1 relationships and monitors are now killed off. And I am not okay with this. Not at all. I'm still reeling from Paul's death back in episode 306. Now, before Delphine's demise, she was able to tell Sarah of the Neolution connection, and Sarah told Ferdinand about it, who was only there to collect the original genome after he stopped Project Castor for Sarah, which was their deal with one another. What surprised me was Ferdinand's reaction to Sarah's news. I thought for sure that Ferdinand was the mole, but it turns out that it was Ferdinand's henchman that worked for Neolution, and because of Ferdinand's disgust for Neolution, he didn't hesitate to beat his henchman into a bloody mess before he got ready to kill him. He got his apron on and everything, and he did it so calmly. It was very eerie. Now, Ferdinand suggests that Sarah hides Kendall Malone and that he shouldn't be told where. Now, I'm wondering, does that mean that Ferdinand is part of Clone Club? Is he on our side? Was he on our side because Rachel is now hostage of Neolution? That twist in Ferdinand definitely surprised me. Was not expecting it, and Kendall's freakout moment was essentially what I was feeling in that moment. It was dead accurate. No pun intended, but whatever. Moving on, we also learned a bit about Neolution through Kendall Malone, as she told Sarah and Mrs. S how Ethan Duncan came to her years after taking her DNA and confessing to her about cloning her, and then he told her about his fears of Neolution taking over his project. Ethan Duncan mentioned how his wife Susan became corrupted by Neolution, and the moment that Kendall said that, I thought Susan was behind Rachel's abduction, and it turns out that Susan Duncan was, and she shows herself to Rachel at the very end of the episode. mean, poor Rachel, though, as she's reunited with the parents she thought were dead for the last 20 or so years. And I have a really bad feeling about Susan Duncan. I mean, I sense that she's a lot more dangerous or more villain-esque than Ethan Duncan. At least the memory montage / dream sequence that we experienced from Rachel at the very beginning of the episode makes sense as to why it was included, because it reminded us of not only what the Lita clones looked like as a child, but we got to see just who Rachel's parents were to her and what they were like before the whole supposed fire that tore their family apart happened. And since season 2 we saw the return of Ethan into Rachel's life, now I guess season 4 will show the return of Susan in Rachel's life. But with Ethan, he made it very clear that he missed Rachel dearly. He didn't want to be separated from her, but he feared what would happen if he stayed, or he had a right to be scared because Dr. Leakey did try to kill the two of them. But I have a feeling that Susan's feelings towards Rachel may be a little more twisted in some way. I mean, maybe she might not want to be reunited with Rachel because of the fact that she's her daughter, but maybe she just wants to be reunited with the fact that she's a clone, a project to her, maybe. I don't know. But now I want to talk about the Clone Club dinner party, which I thought was brilliant. I mean, I thought the Clone Club dance party in the season 2 finale was fantastic, and I thought it could not be topped. But this dinner party surely does it, because not only does it include the 4 Lita clones that view themselves as sisters to one another, so Sarah, Allison, Cosima, and Helena, but it also included those in on their secret and who they considered to be family. So it truly was a family affair, as they all celebrated the news that Allison won her school trustee election. So we had Cosima bringing Scott, we had Allison with Donnie, we had Sarah bringing Mrs. S, and Felix and Art, and then we also had Helena joining in. Big party. But not only did I love the dinner party because it was the first time this season that all 4 clones were in the same room together. I'm not counting the premiere's dream baby shower sequence, but this party truly emphasized the concept of family, and it had a lot of characters that wouldn't normally have a scene together in the same room together. Like Art with Scott, or with Donnie, or Donnie with Scott, or Donnie and Scott with Mrs. S. It's like very mishmash of characters we haven't seen on the screen together before, and we got to see that in this dinner party. So they even mentioned Beth at the party and toasted in her memory, which I thought was very sweet and very appropriate, since it was essentially Beth who brought them all together. I mean, Sarah had taken Beth's identity. Beth had already brought Cosima and Allison together and into the fold, and then Helena was hunting down Beth when she came to town, or she was hunting Katya, but she knew of Beth. So anyways, one thing I was disappointed about was the absence of Crystal, who actually woke up from her medically induced coma in this episode. I thought Delphine would bring Crystal to the clones in hopes of helping her transition to being a self-aware clone. I mean, I even had the image of Cosima walking up to greet Delphine, only to find Delphine standing beside a shocked Crystal who's finally seen Cosima for the first time. Sadly, Crystal has not been included in the Clone Club, even though I really think she should, because keeping her in the dark about it hasn't done her any good recently. Now, on the technical standpoint, the dinner party scene truly blows my mind, because in reality, half the characters in that scene are basically portrayed by one actress, and that is Tatiana Maslany, and as a viewer, you could easily forget that it's Tatiana playing all these characters, because each of the clones is so different from one another. And I just hope we see more multiple clone scenes like that in the future, because they're definitely fun to watch, and even seeing the whole behind the scenes footage they show of how they do that is fascinating to see. So now let's get to this main issues concerning the individual leader clones. Now with Sarah, she got what she set out this whole season to do. She was reunited with Helena, and with them both safe at home, Sarah managed to eliminate the threat that came from Project Castor by making a deal with Ferdinand of Dyad. Or I guess he's from Topside, but anyways, she managed to find the original clone to help Cosima and the others find a treatment before it was too late, even though Sarah seems immune to such health issues. And finally, Sarah got to reunite with Kira after sending her off with Cal for her protection. The finale even ended for Sarah with her playing in the snow with Kira before introducing Kira to Kendall Malone, who was Kira's biological aunt yet foster great-grandmother, since Kendall is the mother of Mrs. S, who is Kira's foster grandma. Anyways, I just thought that Sarah's reunion with Kira was very sweet, and it definitely put a smile on my face like it did hers. And the season truly pushed Sarah to the limits, and I love the progress made because of it. I just hope that she can keep all those she loves safe for as long as she can. One thing is for sure, the Sarah of this finale is vastly different from the one we met in the series premiere, who was essentially the girl who always ran from her problems instead of staying to fight. Now with Cosima, her great accomplishment in the finale would have been getting the original genome, because with the genome from Kendall, she will now be able to find a way to not only cure herself, but find a way to stop her other sisters from getting sick. The whole issue with finding a treatment has always been because they didn't have the original genome. But now that they have it, they could start making progress on it, and Scott can be there to help Cosima, even though they both don't work for Dyad anymore. Now, when it comes to Shay, it seems like things are still rocky between them. It's unclear whether Cosima will fight to make things work with Shay, or if she'll cut her losses because she can't share a majority of her life with Shay. Whether Shay will appear in Season 4 is unknown at the moment, but at least she's alive, unlike another love interest that we know. Now, in regards to Delphine, as I mentioned, it seems like they've come to some sort of understanding. I mean, Cosima even goes to tell Delphine that she understood Delphine's actions and decisions when handling certain things in a way that others may deem unacceptable, like interrogating and threatening Shay. And what I like about it is how it got me thinking of Damon Salvatore from the Vampire Diaries. See, with Cosima, she acknowledged to Delphine that she put the girl in a position where she'd have to make a difficult decision, only to be reprimanded for making it in the first place later on. Cosima even apologized for placing Delphine in a position where she'd have to make the decisions that no one else would want to make, which is very similar to Damon in regards to him always doing the dirty work and performing the actions that no one else is willing to make, and yet he's criticized and reprimanded for doing it and being a monster because of it. Unlike with Cosima and Delphine, I don't think Damon has ever had an apology for being put in this stereotypical bad guy role. But I digress. Let's go back to Cosima and Delphine, who actually kiss in this episode, and it seems like Delphine gives her blessing about Cosima and Shay. She even went to Shay and told her a message to give to Cosima about sharing everything with her, even including a business card with her ID tag number on it, clearly saying the message that she could tell Shay it. Shay all about the clone mystery. Sadly, Delphine's life ends shortly after seeing Cosima, but it seems like Delphine knew her killer and that the killer may go after Cosima, which is what Delphine was worried about. I'm still not over Delphine's death, even though she wasn't my favorite character due to her manipulations and questionable loyalties. But it's sad to see her go like this. Now, Allison's main focus this episode was her election, since it was voting day. She was followed by Rudy when leaving the voting site, but she managed that well, and as planned by Sarah and the rest of the Clone Club. Now, what I like about Allison's election campaign coming to an end is that it provided a sense of normalcy to the show, and I like that it was carried out throughout the whole season as opposed to it being done in 1 or 2 episodes. I liked how it was fleshed out and how it didn't feel rushed. And as far as the side drug business goes, it wasn't brought up. So I'm assuming that since Helena killed Pauci and his inner circle previously, then maybe there isn't a drug ring in the neighborhood anymore. even though Jason Kellerman's whereabouts are still unknown. But he definitely wasn't there when Helena killed Pouchy and all them. But one thing I was surprised about was the absence of Allison's children at the Clone Club dinner party. Since it was a family affair, I thought they would be included, especially since it turned into a celebration for Allison's election win. But I guess since they've only seen Allison with one other clone at a time, I think it's only been Helena, then that may confuse the two kids. Eventually they would have to be clued in though, don't they? I think they should be, but who knows. We definitely haven't seen Oscar at all, but we have seen Gemma make a few appearances here and there throughout the season, I should say. Now, Helena got a surprise reunion of her own in the finale when Donnie managed to find Jesse, the man Helena calls her boyfriend after meeting him in a bar on her road trip with Sarah back in episode 206. I thought it was really sweet that Donnie would go through all the trouble to find Jesse when Donnie only knew that Jesse was a tow truck driver, because I think that's all Helena would say about him that could help identify him. Unless Jesse's real name is actually Jesse Towing, then I guess finding him could have been easier than I thought. Then again, who knows? So before Helena could get down to business with her boyfriend, she's called in to take Allison's place and eliminate Rudy. So there's a fight between the two quote-unquote killers of the clone lineage, but in the end, Helena wins against Rudy, though his deteriorating mind played a part in her victory. I wonder who would have won if that wasn't affecting him. Anyways, Helena lays down with Rudy as he dies, and while in those last moments, he tries to paint them as equals. However, she's not having it, and she continues to remind him that they are very different and that they are not alike at all. So, in the end, Helena got to shed some blood. She got her boyfriend back, and she's still pregnant. She's definitely come a long way from when we first met her. Now, finally, let's talk about Rachel. After getting her new eye, she wakes up and finds herself locked away, and with this new silver eye. We, the audience, know that the silver eye is associated with the extreme Neolution followers, yet I can't remember if Rachel is aware of that, since she was raised self-aware with Dr. Leakey, who basically advocated for Neolution. So I'm assuming she does know about the association, but I'm not sure if it was actually declared in the episode. Anyways, later on, Rachel meets little Charlotte and learns that she's supposed to be Charlotte's new mom, according to Professor Susan Duncan. After learning this, Rachel comes face to face with her thought-to-be-dead mother, which was, I believe, quite a shock to her, even though she holds it well. But then again, Rachel wasn't as shocked, or I guess as reactive to seeing Susan again, like she was when she saw her father again. But then again, I wonder if that's because Rachel suspected maybe there's a possible chance that her mother also faked her death if her father had done it too, while seeing her father actually alive again being shocking in itself, because that's the first time she's heard of it. So it's unclear, but I think Rachel hadn't expected for her own mother to essentially kidnap her and hold her hostage, though I get the impression that it's not a foreign concept to Rachel, though, as I'm thinking back to how she had kidnapped Kira from Sarah back in season 2. Anyways, I did notice that Rachel's new situation in the finale is very similar to Helena's situation back in the season 2 finale. Helena had found herself a prisoner of Project Castor, and now Rachel has found herself to be a prisoner of Neolution. Now, I'm left wondering if Sarah would follow the pattern and try to rescue Rachel in season 4 from Neolution, like how she had focused on rescuing Helena from Project Castor in season 3. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, but I loved that parallel once I realized that it happened. Now, in regards to Project Castor itself, Mark is the only male clone alive that we are aware of. Rudy died at the hands of Helena, like I mentioned. Now, I think it's safe to assume that we've met all the Castor clones, And if that's the case, then Mark is the last one standing. And rightfully so, since he is the very first one we met back in season 2. Because it seems like season 3 was all about meeting these caster clones, only to have them all killed off, except for the one clone that we grew to know over the course of season 2, which was Mark. Now the fate of Dr. Quaddy is unknown, since the last we see of her is just when Ferdinand found her and wanted to talk to her. Of course, that is immediately after Ferdinand kills Dr. Quaddy's driver right in front of her. So who knows if Ferdinand did the same with her, or if he took her somewhere, or if she's going to be locked away, or who knows. We'll just have to wait and see. So I believe now that I covered everything, let's get to predictions. So my predictions will be on season 4, obviously, and for now they'll be clone based. So for Sarah, I think her next villain will be Neolution, and it may be possible that she'll try to get Rachel back with Ferdinand helping out whenever he can, since he has this pseudo relationship with Rachel. And then I think Sarah's villain for season 5 will be whoever runs Neolution. Possibly Topside, but then again, Neolution could be overthrowing Topside. Who knows? Hopefully we'll get some clarification on that in season 4. Now for Cosima, I think for season 4, her focus would be on decoding the original genome and trying to keep it securely hidden from those who want it for themselves, like Neolution. Her relationship with Shay is unclear, but there is definitely no future for Cosima and Delphine, sadly, since Delphine is dead. But another mission for Cosima could be to find Delphine's killer. And with that said, with Delphine dead, who's running Dyad, since that's what she was doing. Now for Allison, I think for season 4, she'll be focusing on her new school trustee position. She'll probably come across many obstacles while in the position, so that'll probably provide some more normalcy to the Clone Club's life in the upcoming season. For Helena, I think she'll try to adjust to a domestic lifestyle still, since she's still having a baby. Will Jessie stick around for longer than an episode? I hope so, because it'll be great to see more of that dynamic between Jessie and Helena. But it would be great to see Helena actually struggling with trying to fulfill the suburban lifestyle, I guess you can say, when she's been so not that lifestyle. I don't know how to say it, but basically I want to see that struggle. It can't be easy for her to just slip into it. Now, as for Rachel, her new situation gives her another layer of vulnerability. So she'll have to find a way to escape with the help of others, as opposed to just relying on herself. So she is still technically recovering from her surgery to get a new eye, and also from the damage she got from Sarah shooting a pencil in her eye. So hopefully when she's recovering and trying to figure a way to escape, we learn more about Susan Duncan's motives and just what she wants out of all this clone craziness. But I have a feeling that I won't like her motives at all, and it may put Rachel in jeopardy somehow. So, but I think more of anything, Sarah may view Rachel be more of a project than of a daughter. So there's that. So that's all I have to say on the finale. I can't believe the season is already over. It seems like just yesterday that it started again. But thankfully there is a season 4. So I just have to wait until the spring of 2016 for it to return. Until then, thank you guys so much for watching all these videos for the season. I truly appreciate it. It means the world to me to know that someone is listening to this out there. I hope you come again and listen to my future videos. Before you go, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share this with all your friends in Clone Club. Don't be afraid to leave a comment below about your own thoughts on the finale, or if you have any questions or predictions of your own that you would want to share. I love to hear them. Thanks again, everyone. And this is Mel saying goodbye for now.